And I know that Seattle is a beautiful city. I just never saw it. I knew where every hospital was, where every nursing care facility was, where every doctor's office was, where every pharmacy was. And I remember some friends calling me up and saying, wanted me to do something fun with them. And I said, I think I need to make some more cream of wheat. That seemed to be what I was always doing, was making cream of wheat. And I would say to some of my friends, what I need is a whole wardrobe of bathrobes, because I can't even get dressed in the morning, and it's 12 o'clock and I'm answering the door in my bathrobe another time. And I really began to feel like Cinderella, only she was not at the ball. I remember one time getting on a plane for California and having a fun timeout with my grandchildren. And one of my executive sons handed me this resume before I got back on the plane to fly up to Seattle. And he said, Mom, I think you'd like to see this. Well, I read this resume, and I thought, who is this person? And I called him afterwards. I said, who is this person? He said, Mom, it's you. I was so far removed from the founder, developer, the influencer, the speaker, the emerging leader that I knew so well from 1970 to 1993. And I asked myself, where had that person gone? She had obviously been led where she did not wish to go. My daily challenge was to be here now in this present moment, even though on any given day I may have felt like a hamster going around in circles, going nowhere. It says in Psalm 139, verse 5, that I was made in secret. And God had me on a steep learning curve for years, molding me and making me according to his purpose. And what I leaned heavily upon during those years was the refreshment that spending time alone with the Lord was to my soul. If you were to look in two of my Bibles, it's Psalm 139. You can hardly read the text because I was immersed in Psalm 139, and it just was so applicable to what I was going through, as well as Streams in the Desert. This tattered, I have read this 2001, 2002, 2003, every single year. Letty Cowman's Streams in the Desert. But Hard Surrender was written over so many of my days as he continued to lead me where I did not wish to go, but it was on the path of his appointing. During those years of isolation, I experienced what felt like the amputation of the familiar self. For years, I began my day every morning on my knees, and I would pray that prayer out of 2 Chronicles, Lord, I don't know what to do, but my eyes are on you. And I would move throughout the day in the spirit of that prayer. I knew that his purposes had a higher priority than mine, and that his agenda was the one that really counted for eternity. Now, in 2009, I lost the partner of my heart. I had been immersed in the cathedral of human suffering for 17 years, and I often felt like I was anchored to my circumstances. But I knew that I was also anchored to the sovereign Lord. I lost my soulmate, my lover, and my lifelong coach. And during those years, I learned the difference between corrective pain and suffering, constructive pain and suffering, and courageous pain and suffering. And I have found grief to be a launching pad for some new beginnings. Life, each day, continues to take courage. It takes courage to be strong, and it takes strength to be courageous. Thomas Merton wisely wrote, we do not want to be beginners, but let us be convinced of the fact that we will forever be beginners all of our lives. My lifelong passion continues to be, as I have started again in my 60s, founding and developing Global Women in Leadership Network. During those years of caregiving, one of my survival techniques was I got my master's in global leadership from Fuller Seminary. But my lifelong passion has been connecting women in the Western world who are immersed in the poverty of affluence with poverty's women in third world countries. Lives are changed, hope is restored, and destinies are altered. Now, your story is uniquely different and wonderful than mine. I know that many of you are facing insurmountable circumstances because you're alive. You are in that season of waiting for hope. And as has been asked throughout this conference, how are we waiting? Are we choosing to wait well? We all have the choice, don't we, to put that nightgown on, to go back to bed, to pull the covers over our head, and say, I just don't think I'm going to do today. Or we can choose to move out in faith, knowing and trusting the God of all creativity to be at work in our particular circumstances, knowing that in the caring of one for another, both are forever changed. Now, when Tim died, I went to the funeral home, and I knew that he wanted to be cremated. He had developed Summit Expeditions, which is a mountaineering program much like Outward Bound, and he wanted his ashes spread in the high Sierras over Jackass Lake, which is the most beautiful place in the world. And so when I went to the funeral home, I asked them, I said, I want the cheapest container possible. So it was unbelievable what they handed me because it was such a metaphor for life. But they handed me this cardboard box, and what was incredible was what was written on the box, and temporary container. And I thought to myself, Tim would love that, first of all, because, and it spoke such truth, because we are all temporary containers. And as Kathleen pointed out, we are just a mist. And what was so significant about the fact that they handed me this particular box, temporary container, was that when we would go around speaking around the country, there was this little book that we were constantly looking for because we lived in such chaos. In fact, the last book that we wrote is called Dancing on the Chaos. And we were constantly trying to find this book. But why it's so significant is because it's called Celebrate the Temporary. And this is truly how life was lived. Just celebrating those unrepeatable, ordinary moments within any given day. Celebrating the temporary, the days that were ordained for all of us. Celebrate what can feel like the useless days, the useless weeks, the useless years. Celebrate the seasons of darkness when we feel like we're living in this question mark, and we can hardly wait for that question mark to be transformed into that exclamation point of this is why I went through this. Because we need to celebrate the darkness. We need to celebrate the hard times, because it's during these seasons that we experience the truth of Isaiah 45. I will give you the treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord who summons you by name. A strong woman works out every day to keep her body in shape, but a woman of strength kneels in prayer to keep her soul in shape. A strong woman isn't afraid of anything, but a woman of strength shows courage in the midst of her fear. A strong woman won't let anyone get the best of her, but a woman of strength gives the best of herself to everyone. A strong woman makes mistakes and avoids the same in the future. A woman of strength realizes that life's mistakes can also be God's blessings and capitalizes on them. A strong woman walks sure-footed, but a woman of strength knows that God's will catch her when she falls. A strong woman wears the look of confidence on her face, but a woman of strength wears grace. A strong woman has faith that she is strong enough for the journey, but a woman of strength has the faith that it is in the journey that she will become strong. So I encourage you to celebrate the temporary as you make the choice to live well, love well, and to finish well. Thank you.
Beautiful.